Hey, everybody. We are here live today and a couple minutes before go time. This time I wanted to make sure the technology was up and running and I'm where I'm supposed to be. So hopefully, it says we've got a few people here. If you want to chime in the chat box for me, and this time instead of saying where you're from, how about what industry do you represent? Go ahead and type that in the chat for me. And then I'm going to know as we go along where I can be specific, I will. So go ahead and chime that in when you get a chance. And I will definitely want to know if you can hear me. That's the funny thing about doing these live shows. You hit live and you hope people are there. So we're waiting to see. There we go. So you never know how long the delay is going to be from the time you hit go live until the time people can actually see you and hear you. So now I see some things chiming in and I think you can hear me. So excellent. I am going to start from the top again so that you have a chance. We'll start right at the top of the hour in about another 60 seconds or so. But I'm hoping that instead of telling me where you're from this time, why don't you chime in what industry you represent? And if you want to put that in the chat for me, then I'll know who's coming in and who's joining up with us today. I received a lot of messages from people saying that they would join in later watching the replay. So that's great too. And hope to be of service for you here today. So if you can hear me, why don't you type in the chat for me, what industry do you represent? And I've got a few speaker buddies here. I'm always happy to have you guys here. We're all entrepreneurs at home trying to figure this out with a lot of other people at the same time. So excellent. Thank you for typing in. I've got some travel industry people here. Great. Love you guys. I know it's a hard time for you. I do have some specific things just for you in today's show. So if for some reason you can't stay for the whole time, make sure you come back and grab that replay. And we have a lot of travel advisors and speakers on the line today. So it's top of the hour. I believe in starting in time and ending on time. So here we go. We have three parts to today's broadcast. The first is I want to share what I see a lot of people doing that I think is a big no-no. And some of you may be guilty of this. So that's where we're going to start. Then I'm going to answer three questions that came in from last week's broadcast that were excellent. And I've got some what I think are good answers for you. And then we are going to get right into the meat of the matter, which is the 12 steps to dealing with the angry customers and how we can be prepared for that because we know that they're coming. So here we go. I think one of the best ways for us to decrease angry and irritated people is to be proactive and play on the offense. So what are some of the ways that you can do that? And what's the big no-no I see? Are you ready? Here's the no-no. Your out of office reply on your email. In fact, when we sent out a brief announcement that we'd be doing this broadcast, I automatically got a whole bunch of out of office replies come back to me because there's so many people not sitting at their desk right now. Isn't that most of us at your regular desk? And I was really shocked at the out of office replies that I saw and the wording that they had. The wording was simply saying, explaining to us, the reader, what COVID is and why they're not home, all stuff we probably don't need to hear, and basically saying, I'm out of touch, don't expect to hear from me. It was worded in a lot of different ways, but none of them were proactive in keeping a relationship going with your customer. So that's where I want to start. Your out of office reply can be used to your advantage. I'm going to make this quick, so buckle up. Here we go. First of all, if you're a person who's experiencing a no paid leave at this time, then you're probably not even listening to me, first of all. But if you're on a no paid leave, then now's the time to set your boundaries. And I'm not expecting you to respond to emails when you are currently not on the payroll. But I do think you can use some positive positioning in your communication during this challenging time. So it might sound like this. Thanks for reaching out. Like many others in the country, I've been asked to take a leave of absence and will not be working again until we have an all clear. At that time, I'll be back in touch to serve. Our office has one contact person and you can reach him at, and then insert the right person. So even though you're saying, hey, I'm not going to take care of you because I'm not getting paid, you at least are using positive positioning. How about the next example? And some of you fall in this category. You're working from home as an employee and you are still getting paid. So you're going to have to be more positive than, hey, I'm not working at the main branch today, right? So here's my wording for you. Hello, I'm working from home at least through April 30th, but that doesn't mean less dedication to serving you in any way I'm able. Please know I'm receiving your emails and I will respond as swiftly as possible. In the meantime, check out the answers to our most frequently asked questions during this pandemic. And then you put a hyperlink and it sends them to the page of all the things that people are probably wanting to know from you that a simple answer already pre-written can provide to them. Now, here's my last one. This is a stretch for some of you, but I really want to encourage you. You have the time to do this. Get more creative. All right. So now this is for all of you entrepreneurs who can easily work at full capacity. All my speaker friends who are on the line, we may not be able to go out and do gigs. We may not have any meetings we can speak at right now, but we can still stay in our brand. So you change it daily. So here's what my out of office might say today. Yes, I'm here. Today is Wednesday, April 1, and I'm available to help you, and then insert pain point. I need everybody to hear this. We should be selling with our pain points. What is causing my customer grief right now? Those are the words I should be using. The more I can speak your language as my customer, the better. Then it says, I have a live broadcast today at 2 p.m. Central Time on my YouTube channel on how you can deal with angry customers. Join us if you can. Otherwise, please know I will be responding to all emails and voicemail messages by the end of business day. And by the way, could you use a laugh instead of this boring autoresponder? Click here to see my friend's viral video. He's sequestered in his kitchen and he's got millions of views. And there you go. So I've given them just a little of something that brings a smile, costs me nothing, change the message daily, and now I'm connecting. So I want everybody to be thinking about what your outbound autoresponders say and what you can be doing to keep those relationships going. All right. Second up, the 3 questions that came in since last call. So here we go. The first one, I'd like to give a shout out to Michelle Savage. Michelle, I didn't look to see if you joined me, but I know you're going to be watching this on delay. And you said you'd even be sharing the video with your team. So hi, team, all from the Warrenville Park District. I've done work with you before. And this is what Michelle said as it deals to their angry, or I should say irritated or upset community members who can't currently use the park district. And this is what she said in her email. I have permission to share. She said, we have suspended monthly payments and refunded certain seasonal programs. Patrons are just upset that everything is shut down. It's not our fault, but for a lot of them, this is their only outlet for interaction on a daily basis. Totally get it. We are offering virtual recreation and fitness online and have reached out to contact our patrons to keep in touch. And she's asking me, what are some of the things we can say? Now, I'm going to read this to you to keep this call very brief and straight to the point, but you know that I wouldn't say it robotically like this. We would teach it to the team, and then they each would bring their own personality to what I consider the script. Script is not to be robotic. Script is to be prepared. And so I would prepare them with something like this. You know, Sally, I so understand what you mean, and I'm with you. We really miss having everyone at the facility daily as well. Have you heard of our online fitness option? I know it doesn't replace the social aspect of the center, but it can help relieve some of the negative feelings that you might be having by trying to stay active. And then here's the important part of this, everybody. Hard period. When I end by saying it can help relieve some of the negative aspects that you may be feeling, and I put a hard period and zip it, shutty, stop talking, then he who talks next loses. And all I mean by that is the person who says something next, they now are the responder rather than all the words having to come out of me. If I put a comma there instead of a hard period, everything that comes after the comma is trouble. So now it might sound like this. So it might relieve some of the negative feelings by staying active, or, you know, we're really hoping that in a couple days or in a couple weeks, we might be able to get it open. Now all of a sudden I'm rambling. I'm making stuff up because I wasn't prepared as opposed to that hard period. Michelle, that's where I would start. And your team does a phenomenal job there at the Park District. Let them bring some of their own personality to it. And I think you've got the beginning of communication in a challenging situation. All right. Next up, I had a professional from the meetings industry ask in the chat window last week, and I didn't get a chance to get to it. She's asked if I was refunding deposits for events that have canceled altogether, because we were talking last week, there was a lot of speakers on the thread, and are we giving deposits back? And my answer is I have not had to return any deposits yet because my events have been postponed but not canceled. But I do have to say that if they do ask for the deposits back, I'm making the personal choice to return them. That's just the way I'm running my business. It's not what I'm suggesting anyone else should do. So if that's the answer, that's pretty easy to communicate. Sure, I'll send you your money back. You don't need my magic words for that. But what about those of you who don't want to or can't, are not in a position to return the deposit money? What are you going to say? So here's my short sentence for that. In situations like this, we have to refer to the contract guidelines. And that's why it exists in the first place, is so that everyone involved knows the financial obligations when we made the agreement. Hard period. Same thing. I'm going to noodle that, or what's the word I want to use? I'm going to mold that a little bit to fit the particular relationship I have with the person who's asking. But the core thing is we're going back and looking to see what the contract says, which means you better know what your contract says before you decide what you're going to do with your deposit money. All right, here's the third one, and then we're moving on to angry customer. I have a question from a travel advisor. So all of you over there that are in the field of travel, this applies to you. And the question is, do you recommend I proactively reach out to ask what clients are thinking about travel in the next 2 months, or wait for them to ask? I was so intrigued by this question that I actually wrote a whole article on it this week. I'm very proud of this article, and it will actually be the basis of next week's broadcast. And here it is. When's the right time to ask for the sale again? It's a big question, isn't it? And the answer changes. It feels like almost daily. But now, in my opinion, is not the time to ask for a sale unless you are in an industry that has a short runway to gearing up again when this is over. For those of us in events and in the travel industry and in the entertainment industry, I believe that your runway is much longer. And today is too early to start the engines for takeoff. So in answer to that travel advisor's question, what can you do? This is what I would say. A travel advisor might send this message to a loyal customer. We're excited to restart your vacation planning when you're ready. As always, I'm here with great ideas for new places to visit and new protocols to help ensure your health and safety. I'll wait to hear from you. And that's it. It's a little bit of a touch to say, I'm thinking of you, I'm still here. Now, as time passes and we all start looking forward to this being over, I think there's going to be a lot of people that are excited about travel. And then your messaging is going to change. And I'll help you with that on future broadcasts. But I don't think it's where we're at today. Oh, I do have one more. Here we go. Lydia, she wrote to me from a long-term care facility, and she says, my question to you is more of a creative powwow. How can we be creative in a way when we market from this angle? My job is to fill beds in the facility. My direct customers are the professionals in the medical field who are super busy with top priority needs at this time. My secondary customers are the caregivers taking care of loved ones at home. I'm not a pushy person at all, and I want to be creative to stay top of mind in awareness. She was in one of my programs where I talked about my bling water and creative packaging and how we do things. And she's asking, how do I do this creativity right now? Here's my answer. And it applies to much of what we're talking about today. I believe that staying on top of mind right now is a great strategy. Create outbound messaging to reflect being here for you during your patients. During this difficult time for you and your loved ones. Providing a safe and comfortable home for those you love might be another phrase. A sales messaging isn't necessary, but paying attention to pain points and providing solutions is where it's at. Could you consider creatively doing virtual tours? What about Zoom-based conference calls? What about a broadcast similar to this one, where you handle frequently asked questions? They could even go in the chat like you guys are doing, and you could interact with them. What about video emails with platforms like BombBomb or Dub? There's all kinds of things you can be doing to stay in touch that's a little different than how you've done it in the past. And we've got many more ideas. If you want to reach out directly, we can help you with that. Now, the reason you all gathered is how that was all being proactive, getting ahead of the anger and the irritation. But now let's fast forward a little bit and say that you are already there. You have people who are calling. Well, first of all, I want to back up one step. You all know, I'm assured, that there are 4 stages to grief and to loss. And they apply not only to death in our normal daily lives, but they apply to the loss and grieving that each of us are feeling for whatever you may be missing out on, whether it's the social interaction or a regular income or whatever it is. You've got these stages, and those stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And in the very beginning, a lot were in denial, and we're quickly moving into anger. Now, the thing that's interesting, and I've taught this for years, for over 25 years, I've taught dealing with angry people. And it's important to realize that fear and anger are actually cousin emotions to one another. And when we start to feel afraid, what we prefer to show is anger. My background was in healthcare, actually specifically in eye surgery. And you can't believe how many people would be really mean to us or mean to the doctor and the nurses, not because they wanted to be angry, but because they were scared of vision loss, scared of how to pay the bills, scared of who was going to be there to help them, you name it, but it comes out in the form of anger. Now, here's what's challenging the situation we're in right now. Not only is your customer angry for whatever their fear is, but so are the people who are receiving it. And so those two things go hand in hand. Now, what we have for you at the bottom of this thread or in the thread, you will see in the description a link that's going to take you to my 12 steps to dealing with the angry customer. Today, I'm not going to read all 12 of them to you. I'm going to hit my 3 favorites, the places where you get the best result. But on that link, you're going to find 3 things. 1, my award-winning article on the 12 steps to dealing with the angry customer. You're going to find a PDF that's downloadable and please shareable. So many of you have asked, can I share this with my teams? Absolutely. It's exactly why I'm doing this. So share, share, share away. Love it if you keep my name with it, but please share it. And then also 1 video out of my online customer service training portal. It's one of the most popular segments, and it's the video version of me teaching you how to deal with an angry customer. And that's all free. There is no upsell. There's no click to buy more. None of that exists. It's there for you for free to grab onto and to use it in any way you can. Why? We've got to get geared up. Because if our team isn't ready to handle the angry people, then how are we going to have resolution and help this situation? So here are my 3 big ones out of the 12 that I want to get to. The first one is learn how to stay calm and absorb the anger from the person who's yelling at you. Now, you watch people who've received training do a beautiful job with this. I think that gate agents at the airport is one of the perfect examples of this. Those who have had training and who are showing up to work with their best energy, they just know how to make it better. They say the right things, they do the right things, they stay totally calm. But have you all seen one of those people kind of explode back? It's because they're not on their A game. They've been worn down or worn out, and they just let their real words and attitudes fly. We have to have staff understand that they're really not yelling at you personally. When I used to manage 35 people in the healthcare facility, I would tell them, you just have to absorb. Just nod, keep eye contact, smile where appropriate. Be careful it's not inappropriate. They'll think that you think that's is funny, which of course it isn't, but you're really listening and absorbing. The hard part is you've got to wring it out and leave it behind as you move on to the next person or as you go back to your home life. You can't leave that all absorbed inside, or you're a sponge that just gets fuller and heavier, and it's harder for you to exist in a good space. So absorb it, wring it out, and move on to the next one. The other thing about listening to an angry person is to make sure you're actually listening. So if they have a long list of complaints and they can see you, now in this case, most of the time it would be by phone, but when you are face to face with somebody, taking out a pen and a piece of paper, or maybe by phone, I might say, now I'm getting all this down, Joanne, go ahead and tell me. And then what happened? Okay, and then what happened? I'm asking questions to show I'm listening. And at the end of that, and this is important, do not interrupt the angry person. They'll think you're not listening, and they'll need to start all over again. So listen until they have completely gotten it out. When everything is done, oftentimes I would say, before I respond to this, and I have taken notes, Joanne, is there anything else that you want to share before I give you some insight to the situation? And what I want to hear that person say is, nope, that's it. That's all I've got. Because what I don't want is to get started on my rebuttal, as you might call it, and then she's interrupting back with more anger. So I want her to get it all out. This works in your personal life too. Get it all out, honey, and then I'll give you the rebuttal, right? So when she's all done, here's what I'm going to do. All right, I want to make sure this is what I thought I heard you say. And I'm going to repeat back to her You're upset because of this. You called and they told you this. Instead, this is what's happening. Whatever she said to me in bullet form, I'm going to give it right back to her. Why? One, I want her to know I truly listened. And two, I want to make sure I'm solving the right problem. Oh, I had this happen so many times to me in the past where I think we're solving problem A and I go through all the resolution and find out, no, that was never what they were mad about. It isn't even what they wanted me to do. And so confirming how they want it fixed is really important. The same time, you're showing the empathy and picking the right words. You know, I'm all about communication. That's why we're gathered. And if you can find the right words at the right time for a desired result, and I showed you some of those examples in a little bit of the scripting that I did earlier on. And you'll find a lot of suggestions in that article that I don't need to take the time to read to you. You can spot those and start to see and be prepared for the things that you think most people are going to be angry about and be ready to handle those. The third one I want to talk about is providing solutions. And I believe this is where the magic is at. See, I always teach that angry people are kind of like a block of ice. And your job is to take them from frozen and mad and just melt them down over a series of minutes, maybe even hours or days, depending on the situation, until all the ice is gone. And that doesn't happen with just one sentence or in just one moment, usually. And so where I begin to see the melting or the defrosting is a better word for it, is when I provide solutions. So after I have listened to Joanne, after I have shown empathy and repeated back to her what the issue is, then I'm going to say this. Well, Joanne, based on what you've told me, we can do A or we could do B. Which one is best for you? Stop talking. And hopefully she chooses one. If she chooses A or B, I do it and we're done. But a lot of times you know what they say, right? Neither of those will work. Or they say C. If they say C and I can do what C is, I'll do that and we're still done. But the challenging ones are when they say, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do about this. And they're using the body language and everything else that says, I've had it. We're not going to get anywhere in this conversation. Then we're almost done. And here is my sentence, and it is in the article. Please feel free to steal it. And you say every word of this exactly the way I have it scripted. Here we go. Ready? Joanne, tell me what it is that I can do that would make this situation better. What is it that I can do that would make this situation better? Why is this sentence so important? Is because I'm asking her to give me an answer. And I'm also putting in the parameters of what's within my ability to do. If she says to me, well, what I'd like you to do is open up the facility so I can get in there and work out. Well, I can't do that. It's not possible. For the travel advisors, if they're saying to you, well, I'd like to get on a plane and go on a trip. I want to take a cruise. Well, we all would love to do that, but I can't make that happen for you right now as a travel advisor, right? Those are not the words you're going to use, but by saying, what is it that I can do? It forces them to put their brain in a space of where I can provide a resolution. And then finally, don't say to make you happy. Some people will use that phrase. Usually happy means something free. Usually it revolves around money. But when I say, what is it that I can do to make the situation better? They give you that bite-sized little baby thing that makes a difference. And you'll be surprised how often they might say, you know what? There is nothing you can do. And when they say that, you smile, even if you're on the phone, because I can hear it. And we say, then I'm afraid the only thing I have left to do is say, I am sorry that you or we, depending on the right pronoun, are experiencing this. I wish there was something I could do. And then we're going to conclude the call. These are 3 of the 12 steps you can take to make a difference. Now, before I go into some closing comments, I want to look over here real quick and see if we have any questions in the thread that I need to see. Let's see. I don't know if I see any questions. If you posted one and I missed it as I'm glancing, repost, put a couple asterisks in front of it so it pops out to me. Have you had a particular angry situation that you haven't known how to handle, that you wished you had the right words? Go ahead and put it in the thread as I begin my 3 to 4 minute wrap up here, because we go back and look at those later and I can respond to those either directly to you if you want to give me a note, or we can put it in next week's broadcast or a blog that we might put out later in the week. So I want to take you quickly to my recap for today. Number 1, I want you to think about counterbalancing irritation and anger by getting on the offense. What are some creative ways you can do that? And look at all of the places where words are coming out of you, both on your outbound voicemail, your regular outbound emails, and especially your autoresponders. I hope that everybody who sent an autoresponder or had one sent to me today would actually hear this recording so they could go back and look for themselves what message I got back and what impression I got when I got that auto response. Number two, I want you to use the 12-step resource to prepare your team. You need to give them the words, and then they bring their own personality to it. And then finally, I have an article I'm really proud of that just went online. We'll make sure that you have a link to it. It's called Disruption is the Perfect Time to Reset Your Service Levels. You can find it on my blog today, and I think we'll also post a link in this post recording so that you can see it. I want you to start thinking about where do we go from here? Whether you're a speaker, a travel advisor, I see somebody from the insurance field, education and consulting. Lisa, I'm glad you're here. We all have had our playing fields leveled. Unless you are an essential provider right now, your work is different now, and my heart says it's going to be different when we get on the back end. So there's all kinds of things you can be doing at this moment to try to serve your customer. There's plenty of people talking about that, but I want you to start thinking about, what does this disruption do to your reset? What does it look like? What do you need to do differently? What resources do you need? What help do you need? And can we be there to help provide some of that, getting your thinking straight now so that you can be ready later? In that article, in case you don't have the time to read it, there's a fantastic brief story from a speaking colleague of mine named Bryce Austin. He is a race car driver on the side. He doesn't speak and drive at the same time, but he really knows about cars. And he tells me there's a race called Race America. And in it, there is this kink, they call it, a turn. And you need to take it at about 100 miles an hour. And he says that the experienced drivers know how to keep that gas pedal down and hit that kink, while others get scared, nervous, frightened, maybe even angry, and they take their foot off the gas pedal. And I think that's where we are right now. Jess, if you're still on the line, you and I both love this phrase, gas pedal down. And what that means is when everybody else is going, what do I do? How do I change? We put the accelerator down and take that kink. Now, I know nothing about 100 miles an hour, but I do know about putting my head down and trying to get ready for what's coming. So that's my time for you today. I do have one bonus suggestion for you. If you stayed with me that long, we still have a bunch of people on the line. Thank you for seeing it all the way through. There is something happening tomorrow that I'm going to be at, and I hope that you will check it out too. One of my favorite people to follow in the marketing world is a fellow speaker by the name of Jay Baer. He's a Hall of Famer, and I have always found Jay to be spot on with his advice. And he is doing a webinar that is called 11 Things You Must Adjust in Your Social Media During These Crazy Days. I don't know these answers, but I know Jay does, and I'm going to be there. And he will also have a post recording of it. It takes place tomorrow, April 2nd at 2 p.m. Eastern time if you want to join him live. If not, I will be posting a link to the rebroadcast in all of my social media circles. So if you're following me, watch for the link to Jay. He is brilliant. And I hope to see you back next week, where our topic is going to be, when is the right time to start selling again? Thanks for being here, everybody. Hope you got something out of it.